Hey, I'm Jason Harrell.
And I'm Justin Boyd.
And let's freaking do this.
Welcome to episode number 23 of Let's Freaking Do This. My name is Justin Boyd, and once again, I'm thrilled to be joined by my good friend and musician, Jason Harrell. Jason, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm totally pretending like this is the first time we do this.
This is the first time we tried this. It's going well, like always. Smooth sailing as always. Jason, why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest for tonight?
We got Rob Felicetti from the Jaret Ray Reddick band and Bowling for Soup, and at least two other bands that he's been a part of that I know of. But we'll talk about talk about some of that.
Hi, am I supposed to say hi now?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want to, whenever you want to.
Oh, there's no like censorship rules or anything here?
No.
Cool.
We forgot to apply for our FCC license, so.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, I didn't really have any bad words lined up anyway. Hello.
Oh, okay.
I know how. What a letdown.
I mean, if you could think of any, you can definitely say them if you want.
I can think of a bunch. It didn't seem natural.
Well, Rob, it's great to have
Rob?
you. Yeah.
Is this your studio? We just sat here and talked about you getting your headphones set up, and I see the microphone and everything. I assume it's your studio. I also see your drums in the background.
Yeah, there's the drums right behind me.
Your electric drums.
Yeah, it's my setup. Most of it I got for Christmas from my wife, but
yeah.
But I don't know what I'm doing at all with recording, but it's like just enough stuff to do what I need to do, like for doing demos and any of that kind of stuff. I've even actually done I've recorded like real stuff out of here that's been sent out, as long as I can get it clean enough, like that
That's it.
that Bowling for Soup cover that we just put out, the Miley Cyrus one. I did like some guitars, all my bass here.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because we did record a bunch of it in Texas, but
yeah, I was there. That was fun.
Oh yeah, you were there.
That was exciting for me. I don't know if I don't know if I expressed that how exciting it actually was. And I was.
You got super drunk that night and did express to me how much.
I expressed how bad I felt, but and then I expressed some stuff into the toilet, and then
gross.
Yeah, we didn't hear that part, Jason. We were good.
I had to hear all about it.
You did. You did. I'm a big complainer.
You're fine.
But you did that. Yeah, you did that one demo that I heard that's going to be a song.
Yeah, I did. That's right. I did that here. And that's that, I think it might have been like the first thing that I did here. So I'm not saying I'm like getting good, but the stuff I do now sounds better than that.
I mean, I thought it sounded pretty good as it was. And I think what you're talking about is like a lot of what people do these days anyway. It's what I'm going to do a lot of. Like, I'm about to go. So you heard the song that I did recently that I sent to
Jaret.
Yeah. And I was going to just basically put it out like that. But then I kind of had a conversation with Jaret and I started thinking about it a bit. And so I'm going to go back and I'm going to get somebody to mix it and do like a professional level job of it. So it'll delay it by a couple of weeks, but
yeah. But what's the rush?
There is no rush,
right? Isn't that nice when there's no deadline? You're just
right.
It's good and bad because then you get the opportunity to overthink and do too much.
Well, I mean, I already thought I was ready to put it out, and now I've changed my mind. But I think it's gonna be good But what I was saying is, I think that's kind of common practice these days. Like everybody's got a recording setup at their house.
Yeah.
And maybe it's also something to do with COVID. I don't know. After COVID, people just got accustomed to doing this thing and sending it off and having people do their own things with it.
It was pretty common before that. I'm sure that pushed it forward,
yeah.
But even before that, I know a couple albums that I own and have, I know for sure from the people that recorded them that it was hard drives being couriered back and forth, and and like well before any of that. But I'm sure people are much more comfortable about it. There's like less stigma behind that now.
Right.
Because 10 years ago, you would have said that. People would have been like, then that's not even a real album. Like, sure it is. And yeah, now it's like, it's almost expected. Like, I don't have to go there, even though I'm in Texas every week. But
Yeah. I feel like I feel, it's definitely nice to be able to get in the studio and have the time with, do like figuring the stuff, especially when you got to figure stuff out, when you don't know exactly what you're going to play and you get the opportunity to talk with whoever's producing or whoever the artist is. It's definitely helpful, but
last BFS album was like 85% done that way, only because it was we did it in 2020, and our lives in LA, and he just, I mean, I think he was already kind of dealing with some, I don't think anything serious, but I think he was dealing with some medical stuff, and at that point it's like no one wanted to roll the dice about anything, so he's like, I'm gonna be here at my studio and we'll just FaceTime, like him and Jaret, and you know what I mean, whatever we need to do. But it was the band and an engineer and others. Yeah, but he was still very much involved in the writing and producing part of it. He even mixed it. Yeah, he wasn't physically there. That was the only part of that process where everyone wasn't there in the room. But I get it,
I think didn't Jaret say he basically did the country record that way as well?
Yeah, him and Zach, but that was a little they less so than that. They are because he had it, him and I think he and Zach did like FaceTimed and texted like writing it, and then they did it in Nashville, but like actually recorded it. But that's more of a Jaret question.
Yeah. It's the whole concept of what we were talking about. Yeah.
So, Rob, having you on today kind of works out well for us because there's actually Bowling for Soup news today.
Is there?
We've never been able to do this, but we've got breaking news. Y'all are going to release a new digital album. Is this yeah. Is this news to you?
I think I know if this is. Yeah, it's the covers album.
Right.
Yeah. It's like a culmination of a bunch of stuff. There it is. Yes. Yeah. Don't mind if we do. Yeah, we did. It's actually kind of funny. This goes back to 2020, actually. That year, we had this awesome plan that we started enacting in the first couple months. And we spent most of January in a studio in Texas. And we're like, all right, we're just going to stockpile a bunch of covers. And we recorded a couple original songs that both ended up being on our last full release. But we stockpiled all these covers, and we're like, the idea is we'll release one every month, and then do play a bunch of festivals and do a bunch of flash shows. So no one's, we didn't want to be out for weeks at a time. We just were like, all right, we're going to do a bunch of cool sort of one-off shows and release songs in between. So it was going to be a really busy year, but really smart. And then it wasn't. Yeah, and then we didn't do that. So we have all these covers. We released a bunch of them, but we're sort of packaging it together with a bunch of other ones that weren't put out. Some of them in which we were recording up until literally a couple weeks ago. So it's this nice volume of covers of bands that we like, bands that we're friends with, bands that we like that we're friends with. So all of the above. So it should be fun. I'm excited for it to come out. It's funny too, because some of this stuff was recorded in 2019. So it's kind of cool. It's coming out in an album with some stuff that was recorded 2 weeks ago, and it all just going to sound like one full album.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jaret's post, he mentioned that you're also going to release a new single, which I assume, is that going to be on the album, or is that not a cover song?
No, it is a cover.
It is a cover. Okay.
Yeah, it's a cover. It'll be on the album, and I think it's just going to be released as a single when the album comes out. I believe is the plan. And I think it has a lot to do with timing with other things that are happening all at the same time. So, and it's really short from now. I think it's April 4th, I want to say.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he didn't give a date on his post, so that's...
Oh, wait, did he not? So forget I said that.
Well, I thought it said something like 7 day or something like that. It didn't say that?
I don't know. It was like a pre-save digital thing. So maybe, that's
as far as I know, pre-save things are usually...
Right. Yeah, we're not trying to get you in trouble. It's just we're excited. So
I mean, how much trouble can I really get?
Right. Now we're both longtime fans. Of course, obviously Jason's now in a band with you. So this is like pretty cool for us. Yeah, that guy
Yeah,
there with
that's
the beard.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I was
Stage
playing.
left.
yeah,
We're both
I-
stage left. It's kind of
Yeah,
cool.
we're stage left.
yeah. I was gonna ask you about that. What's it like sharing that part of the stage with Jason? With-
Sometimes, so because this is sort of a newer band, and it's so weird because we play the Spectrum. Like the last show we played was like a pretty giant stage, so it didn't. That wasn't it. Where was? I can tell you where that is.
Yeah.
That's trees.
That's trees.
I could tell from the brick wall and the
Yeah.
door, the exit door right next to the stage, which is actually a little bit. Even though because we were support for the Nixons, there was a couple of bands that played that night. So oh man, I wish I could remember I'm so
The Wee
bad with it.
Beasties?
Yeah,
Yes,
they were
the Wee
wild.
Beasties. It was
They
like
were
15 people.
There was
or something.
112 people on the stage, and they were completely insane. But like, it's that put on a good show thing, and it is awesome. I had a great
Oh,
time
yeah.
watching them. There was a bunch of good bands. I forget someone else. There was an acoustic opener, I think. I'm just reliving the Night of Trees right now.
Yeah, I forgot what they were called. Dang it, what are they called, Justin? It's a DFW band.
I have an excuse then because I'm not from DFW.
Well, I'm not either, but
Well, you at least live in Texas.
yeah. I can't remember what they're called. Dang it. Anyway,
I'm in Houston right now, so I'm pretty far from GFW, but I did go to school there. Yeah,
I think that band's main thing was kind of like they're actually kind of like a hard rock band or a kind of a metal type band.
This sounds familiar.
Yeah,
But
but
to answer the actual question, sometimes, and how long have we been playing live shows now? It's less than a year, right? It was last August, I think, is when we started,
yeah, August was the first one.
right?
Yep.
So in that short amount of time, we've really played a bunch of shows. I remember at first, we were counting them down. We're like, all right, show number 4. I lost count now completely.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes we're on these cramped little stages, like even Trees, we were opening for the Nixons. So there's Backline, and I think there was another band. I don't remember how this all went. There we are. That's from our first show, I think.
Yeah, it is.
I could tell with the trees and all that. Trees. Yeah, but sometimes we're like right up on each other. What was it when we were opening for John Wolfe, and then we played we did
At the
Lava
Armadillo.
Cantina was a thing. That's a great comparison
Oh.
here. Lava Cantina is an enormous stage.
Yeah.
And there's all this room up there, so we're like fine. And then we played the Armadillo, which I love that place. The good Armadillo
Yeah.
joint. Everyone there is super cool. That
Yep.
food is great. The room sounds great. But like that one, the last time, not so much. We were able to spread out a little bit because it was like our show. But when we were opening, it's how it works. There's going to be a bunch of stuff behind you, and you got to work around it. And that's just how the game goes. But we were literally touching each other, and then we played a show.
Yeah, I think the hardest part on the stage is always the drums, because the drums are.
I think
Somebody
he was on like the side that show.
Yeah, he's always like trying to. I think twice now he's set up on like to the side because of the proximity of Jaret to the drums.
Yeah,
that are
Jaret would be
already
like
set,
sitting on the kick drum if
Yeah.
he was doing it that way.
which might be interesting, but
I would do it.
but our setup on stage has always been intentional, I think, because I'm always to the furthest left. Because if you were left of me, I would end up stabbing you with the bow.
Oh, it's your
at
thing. I
some
never
point.
thought of that.
Yeah,
I just saw because he had all that stuff. I don't even know what half of it is.
yeah. He's got like 47 instruments, so you got to watch
Yeah,
out. Like,
and he plays them all.
I play them all sort of.
All right, yeah, it's more than I do.
I learned to play the banjo for this band, so.
but Rob,
But-
you played several instruments, right? You played drums, you played lead
Bass,
guitar, bass, obviously.
Yeah, guitar's guitar, right? But
Right.
I started as a drummer when I was a kid, and then so my first band, we were kind of just like a shitty punk rock band, and it was with my brother and my buddy Ian, who's actually Bowling for Soup's guitar tech now. But yeah, this was back when I was 13 or something like that, and started doing that. They were just a couple years older than me, but like when you're a kid and in high school, those couple years make a difference because the other three guys, two guys, and then we added a guy, but the other three guys in the band were all two grades above me, so we would practice at our guitar player James's house, and then those three would go do whatever they were going to do, and I would just be like left by myself. So I would just pick up his guitar, and I started playing along to like No Effects albums. That's how I figured out how to play guitar, just like by grabbing his shit and doing it.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, I mean, from guitar, you sort of automatically know how to play bass if you can play guitar.
Yeah. Yeah, sort of. I mean, that's definitely true.
At least the way I play with a pick, and I kind of play it like a guitar because I don't really know any better. But
well, I think it's pretty common in punk to play with a pick because it gives a different sound too.
yeah, it's a little punchier, and like it's just the way you're strumming and what you're doing with it, and like kind of works more for the songs. I could never figure out the playing with the fingers on the bass thing. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I've tried. I've played to the point with I had blisters on my fingers.
I don't know how like Steve Harris does it, like that. How fast he plays from Iron Maiden, you know that
with all the fingers, like
he uses all of them.
Yeah,
it's crazy, and they're metal.
Right. Yeah. My experience practicing playing bass has just been exclusively because I'm trying to play bass parts for songs that I'm recording for myself.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's why I just kind of worked on MIDI, because I'm like, if there's an instrument I don't know how to play, I'll just program it.
Yeah.
Should be able to do that live or something.
I mean, some people do, right?
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Yeah.
So, Rob, you mentioned like your first band. How many bands were you down the road before you joined Patent Pending?
Man, it's like it gets all muddy and messed up in my because so many things happen in like sort of a spread out time, and everything just happens so quick. Like there was one point where I think I was playing in like 4 different bands at once. But there's my first one. Then in college, like when I left that band, then I played in this other band in college, who we were just like buddies with. That's another like punk band. Then I did another band where I was like kind of a lead singer-ish. And the two of us ended up joining Patent Pending. So yeah, that was like, I would say that was probably like 3 or 4 in for me.
Okay.
Or maybe 4. And then right around the same time is also when I joined the Ataris and I was playing with them, but I was in that band like 3 different times.
Oh, you were in the Ataris 3 different times?
Yeah. It was weird. I played guitar first, and then they like relocated, and I was like, I'm not gonna move to Arizona. And then asked me to play drums. While they were touring, their drummer left or something, and it was like in the middle of a tour, and I had like a day to like learn everything and just meet him, and then just like go for it.
Yeah.
And then I did that for a while, and then left, and then ended up going back and playing bass for them just for a quick run. It was with Bowling for Soup actually, which was fun.
Okay. So is that how you got like in hooked like on the same what am I trying to say, like hooked up with them, like that's how you got kind of became friends with Jaret? Or
it was before that. It was like pretty much right when I joined Patent Pending.
Okay.
We did like a couple one-off shows, and then just started touring a lot together, and they like brought us overseas for the first time, and this is like, it was a long time ago. And we just were like, you just make friends and like quickly, and you just know it. It doesn't seem forced. It's not like, it was just really like by the end of the first show we ever did together, we're like, well, we're all friends now, and that was that. And that's basically it. So it was a pretty quick and easy process when it came to like when they were like, hey, can you fill in for us? And I was like, yeah. They're already like, we already shared a bus before. It's like easy,
Yeah.
That's really what matters the most. They're like, yeah, you'll figure out how to play the songs. It's fine. Who cares?
Well, one of the first times, me and Jason, we've seen Bowling for Soup play for years and years and years. But one of the first time we saw you play with the band was actually the Warped Tour in 2017. We got a picture with you. You're right there next to Jason, which is funny.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So,
I had no idea that this happened. Yeah. I got to see this. This was
in San Antonio in 2017. This is the Warped Tour 2017. This is the hottest day I've ever been alive for. It was so hot at this place.
It was really uncomfortable.
It was brutal. And I mean, I lived in Texas my whole life, but that day was just, we were on a blacktop. It was, man.
Isn't that where the it
Where
was
the
right
Spurs
outside
play.
of their stadium there.
Right. The parking lot area. Yeah, this giant parking lot. Warped Tour was going on. We, we got to see, we saw the show, and then afterwards y'all had a meet and greet. So
did y'all watch Guar?
we walked by them playing, I think. I
made
don't
sure to watch them every day we were on that trip. Hey, look at that koozie on the table.
Oh wow.
Oh,
It's
Holding strong.
I don't even remember Guar being there.
Oh yeah, they were there.
They asked Jaret if they could they were like, hey, because they're like, could we kill you guys one day on stage? And we're like, how as awesome as that would be, that's like a whole thing, and it's like you got to go up there and get there's all that fake blood and shit, and when you're traveling in your home, it's just this little tour bus, you don't really have all this opportunity to take this extensive shower. We're like, that sounds cool and flattering, but we're not going to do that.
Yeah, so this show you were subbing for Gary, who I think his wife was pregnant at the time, was actually giving birth at the time. So that's why you were called into duty. Yeah,
I think it might have even been that day. It was one of those days right around Dallas. I know that.
Yeah. Because we saw you together in San Antonio. Then the next day it was back in Houston, which that's where I live. So I actually saw y'all at Houston the next day also. So, and I saw
cool.
I saw Guar that day also. But
okay, so you doubled up on Guar.
I doubled up, yeah.
He actually only went because of Guar. He's just a huge
huge Guar fan. Yeah, I can name 0 Guar songs.
It was that was the first time I intentionally saw them.
Yeah.
I'd passed by them before, but we made sure to watch, and it was some show.
I think I saw them on Jerry Springer one time or something when I was a kid. They were, for some reason, they were on there, and I don't know. It kind of,
why not?
Yeah,
that's true. They were. I think they were on Jerry Springer a lot, weren't they? More than once they went on Jerry.
I don't think I knew that.
They were such a spectacle, because they're dressed up, and that was that was back when people were afraid of Marilyn Manson. That was such a. I mean, that dude weighs 98 pounds, soaking wet.
Yeah, what would it take now to get? I remember when everyone was afraid of Slipknot and shit.
Right.
Yeah.
What would it take now for people to even give a shit anymore?
No,
nothing. I feel as far as in our world go, all shock value is gone.
Yeah.
No, that's totally true. Yeah, there's nothing you could really do.
It's done. It's Elvis was the first one.
Right.
It's just been downhill since Elvis.
That's it. Well, I think that's fair.
So Rob, we saw you in 2017, and then about a year later, you kind of joined Bowling for Soup, right? That's kind of when it all happened. You became the full-time bass player.
Yeah, I definitely joined before it was put out there, but it was kind of it went more in retrospect, but yeah, because the 2017 thing was sort of doing a favor for my buddies, and it was definitely fun. That was awesome, and especially to play drums, which I hadn't done professionally at that point since I was in the Ataris, and that was probably 8 years before that, or I don't remember how long, but
yeah.
So doing that was cool, and I was just man, I miss being around those guys all that much, and that's when I was still kind of in patent pending, and we were sort of slowing down with what we were up to, and then 2018 came around, and I was actually sort of gonna stop playing music professionally, and Jaret was hey, again, we're doing the Warped Tour, we need you. It was the same exact thing as it was the year before, the same phone call. But and I was all right, what's going on with Gary this time? And he's no. He's now it's with bass. I'm all right, so I'm shifting around. And it was not a lot of prep time, but enough that I was I made it work. I kind of went, I wanted to do the thing where, because I'm kind of like them, where I'm not I don't want to show, it doesn't have to be perfect. It really doesn't. But I also didn't want to just be well, I'll figure it out. I didn't want to be uncomfortable playing.
Yeah,
that's what I think. So, honestly, there's nothing less fun about a show, ironically, than focusing on what you're doing and trying not to mess it up. You know what I mean? You sort of the playing part's supposed to be the part you're not
Automatic.
thinking about. Yeah.
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 So I kind of just got myself, with the time I had, I got myself like leveled to that in my, to my standards, which aren't high.
Did
then,
you spend a lot of time getting just going through the songs on your own, like a ton of time doing it before, or
as much time as I was able to? Yeah.
yeah,
Because I would just like set up, like I didn't have any sort of studio setup or anything. I just set up like this little practice amp and just put on a speaker and just played along and figured it out. I mean, I was familiar with the songs. I knew how they were done live. I knew what things were different. So it was like a little bit of a leg up, but it was more about like, oh, I have to listen to what actually, that's the thing. Like you could just play through the song and just hit the root notes. But I was like, I want to play the actual song. I don't want it to be like, I'm not just trying to do like a cover. So yeah, that was sort of this quick process. And then I just sort of showed up there and we hardly practiced. I mean, I got there, we got to the practice space. The bus was already there, like about to take us away. And like we would start a song and then like halfway through Jaret would stop. You got this, whatever. And like we made it about 3 songs in like that. And are we worried about this? Everything's fine, right? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, I won't be the one to say it, so sure. And the first show we did was Dallas, actually. So it was like hometown show, first show. And then sort of during that tour, it just seemed very like,
it clicked.
It's honestly like that show. I was like, I feel like this is my band. Like, I wasn't trying to be like, fuck, whatever. But that's what it seemed the most like in my entire career. It seemed the most like part of a band.
Yeah.
Up to that point.
Yeah, from a fan's perspective, it was like, to me, like you fit in. It was like a seamless transition. I mean, like even going to the shows and just how like Jaret kind of plays off you, like like kind of the witty banter is like you and him a lot of the time. Like it was like you definitely like just kind of stepped in that role and like took the ball and ran with it, and all the other sports analogies I can think of. So
you hit the hockey puck into the goal,
into the basket.
Yeah.
So now I wanted to back off on that at first. Like my first show there, I was like, I didn't want to say a word. I was just like, I'm here to do this one thing.
Right.
And he's like egging me on like during the show, and I'm like, what am I supposed to say or do? And it's that sort of became the shtick anyway. It was just like it just kind of worked out that way. Like a few shows in, we're already like making butt jokes and stuff, like just right away. But because I was never really in that role before in any band I've ever been in. Like with socially, sure, but never on stage. I was never like supposed to be sort of speaking at all, really. Yeah, so yeah, to do that, and that's like a huge part of the BFS show, was sort of like and it's another thing, I didn't want to like actively do it because then it's like forced. You can't force that.
Right.
So I was just like, all right, we'll see what happens. And that's exactly how I did it. Thanks for noticing.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. We love it. So I know you'd played with them kind of before, and obviously you were in the Ataris and Patent Pending. Were you a fan of the band? I mean, I know you're friendly with them, but was it like when you joined Bowling for Soup, what was it like to join that band? Was it kind of like, hey, I'm joining a band that I'm kind of a fan of, or what's that like? What was that like for you?
So like when I was like in high school and stuff, I knew like that's when I was like, no, in college, I think it's when like 1985 was like a hit on the radio. And I knew some of their songs before that and didn't even realize I knew their songs. It was one of those kind of things, like I knew like half of Drunk Enough to Dance without realizing it was Bowling for Soup.
Yeah.
And then, and I knew the Bitch song. And just from being in the world I was in, like, the sort of more, it was a little more of the punk rock stuff. Like it was more the Bad Religion, No Effects kind of deal, but the Fat Record stuff. And that's mostly what I was into, but I knew those songs and I liked them. And it's just funny because I remember it didn't click that these were all the same band until the first show we did together. And I'm like, oh my God, like almost that is them. High School Never, I can't like, and it's just all came together. I'm like, that's right. Like I knew this, but I never really thought about it.
Know who you guys are.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I obviously knew they were, but it was like, I'm like, I know all these songs. Like by the end of the first set, I'm like, I know and listen to all these songs and like didn't really ever think to put that together. And so it's more, but that's like right when we all hit it off right away. So it never seemed like this disconnect of like fan to friend thing with them,
Mm-hmm.
probably because of that. But also, I recognize their stamp and everything they'd done in the, with the band before I even knew them, let alone before I was in the band.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, that's where that kind of factor comes in, where it's like, oh shit, I'm joining this band that has all these accomplishments and shit. I got half of them hanging up on my wall. That has like all these things and it done all these insane, opportunities over the years. It played on where, Jimmy Kimmel and on a freaking aircraft carrier and Grammys and all that stuff. So that's the stuff where I'm like, oh shit, I'm a part of that. Like, and not just like a very involved part of it. Not just like, there's the guy that shows up and we pay him and he plays. There's a lot of bands like that.
Yeah.
But this band's very intent that that's not how it is for anybody, whether you just showed up 20 something years in or you're there from day one.
Yeah.
Which is nice. It feels good.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like anything. Well, I mean, I feel like anything that Jaret put together would probably be like that. Like,
well, yeah. Even with with our band, like,
yeah.
He makes it a point to have us all very involved, where like a lot, and there's nothing wrong with this, but a lot of the country artists in that world are just like,
exactly,
it's their name, it's them. Everyone here is just there to fill the spot and make the noise.
Yeah.
Where he makes us all feel like we're part of the band, which is important.
Justin, I don't know if we talked about this or if I even told you this, but like a few weeks back, he was texting us asking us if we wanted to like come up with a band name.
Yeah, and everyone's consensus was like, no, we're just gonna be Jaret Ray Reddick.
Jaret Ray Reddick,
because he starts with like remember there was like and the whatever or just the Jaret Ray Reddick band, and it's like, no, it's you, man. Like it's your thing. Like we're here for the ride and all feel very involved, but it's branded,
Yeah, I think the name is great. I think the logo looks really cool. If you're watching now, you can see that. I do think that whenever people talk about it, I think it is a little tough to like I have to say like the Jaret Ray Reddick band. Like when I say like my friend Jason's in this band, if you just say, hey, he's in Jaret Ray Reddick, it sounds kind of clunky. Like it's. So it wouldn't hurt if it was
in country though. Like that kind of work. Like he's in.
Yeah, that's true.
It's my buddy. Yeah. He plays bass in Luke Combs. You know what I mean? Like
there
that. You would get different. It. Like you wouldn't be like, what the hell does that sentence mean? Like you'd figure it out.
He's inside Luke Combs.
Yeah, he's inside of him, and that's how that happened. Well, yeah, that's I know what you mean though, but you could just say it, like, oh, he's in the Jaret Ray Reddick, but that would be like the informal way,
right?
Like the actual. And he only does the Ray thing because if you just search Jaret Reddick on Spotify and Apple, like you'll get like cartoon theme songs and like one of his 95 bands.
Yeah.
So when you, I want to go back to like that size stage we just showed there. Obviously, that was.
Was that Lava?
Lava, yeah, that's a big stage. That might actually be the biggest one we've been on so far, as like physical size.
I think that last one, the Rodeo Austin stage, might have been at least the same size as that or bigger. No?
Maybe, but it was like a trailer though.
That was like a built like truss stage, yeah.
See, I don't know these things.
Like festival, like fair style.
Well, that was kind of what I was trying to get at, the fact that I don't know about these things. You have been on big stages. Like, what's like? Take me back to like what was the first like big show you played with whoever?
That's a cool question. I like it because it's no, I really do, because it's like such a simple question, but it is like it has like this thing, like not the first show you played, not the first sort of show where you're like, oh, this is like a real thing.
Yeah,
there's all sorts of stuff, because like my first band ever, we never really I mean, we did a lot of cool stuff for being kids. Right. I mean, we were like touring up and down the East Coast and shit, and I was like literally like getting dropped off to school in like our van in the morning sometimes. Oh, wow. We'd be coming back from Virginia Beach, like crazy. I was the weird kid in high school that people just had no idea what was going on. But mostly that kind of stuff's like fire halls and basements and tiny little clubs and whatever. But like a band that we were friends with from the same town won like that Ernie Ball competition and got to play the Warped Tour in Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And their drummer quit like 2 days before that to join this other band. So they were like, hey, can you, or like a week before, like, can you learn our songs and play the Warped Tour show? I was like, holy shit. You know, I was like, I was 16. I even bought a ticket already. So I gave that to my buddy. And I was like, all right. And played it. And like getting there, yeah, I'm like, oh my God, there's this backline like DW drum kit that was all mic'd up and everything. And I remember just showing up to that being like, oh, this is the real deal. And even though, you know, thinking back on it now, we were playing the worst spot on a tiny little stage that no one gave a shit about. But it was awesome. That was probably the first time I was like, oh, cool. I'm like doing it. I'm doing the real thing. I'm doing.
So you were
like,
in high school at this time?
Yeah, I was in 10th grade.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was pretty wild.
That is really cool. Playing Warped Tour in 10th grade.
Yeah, it was pretty nuts. And I had like, you know, they gave you those passes or whatever like for it. And I kept that on my key ring like a dipshit, like all through like the whole high school year, like a moron. Just I thought it was hot shit.
I mean, you were though. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, sure. No one gave a shit. and poking them out in high school.
High school kids are stupid though.
That's true. I agree with that. I agree with it then and still to this day.
Yeah. I mean, you were actually the one doing the cool shit.
Yeah, but there was cooler kids in the school.
What are they doing now?
There still are. I don't know. I honestly have no idea.
Yeah. That's good.
So you mentioned go ahead, Jason.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, so you played the Warped Tour as like your first big show.
I think, that's what I would consider the first big show.
Yeah, were those shows with the Ataris? Were they pretty big?
It depended on like that. We did such a spectrum of stuff. I mean, we would play like a shitty, tiny little basement in the middle of nowhere, North Carolina.
Yeah.
And it'd be cool because it'd be like a packed room and it's like that old school, like hardcore show kind of thing. Not that the Ataris are a hardcore band, but the environment was like an old Black Flag show or something.
Yeah. Just,
you know,
smells like sweat.
Exactly. Everyone's piled in and singing. It's kind of cool. And like that's really like, I know Chris loves that from the Ataris, loves like that vibe of shows.
Right.
But done that and also did like, I remember whenever we would play in Mexico, those shows were huge. Like, I had no idea. Like the first time we showed up there, and we're like in this shitty hotel in like Tijuana, and I'm just like drinking tequila with our bass player Brian. They're like, "All right, we got to get over to the venue now to play." Like we had stuff dropped off there earlier, and we show up, and it's just this huge place that's just packed. And at the time, it was like some of the bigger shows I'd ever played. Like because we're playing for probably 1,200 people or something, and I'm like, "Oh shit, where are these people in America?" Because we weren't doing that in America at the time. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was quite a jump though, because I guess around that time is when Patent Pending was busy. And then we started when we went over to the UK with Bowling for Soup for the first time, I think that was 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Those were probably the biggest club shows I'd ever done to that point they definitely were, but that was the first, like a tour of big venue shows, 2,500 people shows all sold out and stuff. Because before that, it's like I said, we do one here and there. Oh my God, or hit another here and there. Some big outdoor show, but never did like a full tour of that until then. Yeah. So that was kind of a different thing.
And that was like show after show, like big, like packed out.
Yeah, I mean, it was a consistent everything. It's not like, well, we just did that one big show. Like that's where it was, starting to become more of a consistent thing. And then we did all sorts of, and we played on TV and did all sorts of weird shit back then.
And BFS is pretty huge in the UK, right? I mean, like y'all are about to go back over there pretty soon, right?
We're going there for festivals, yeah. And we're second slot on this festival, which is awesome, to the Offspring.
Right.
So, excuse me. So, like, yeah, I mean, I think the last headlining tour we did there, the last two actually, we sold out the Brixton Academy, which is this huge place in London. As far as club shows go, it's like as big as it gets. I think it's like 5,500 people, 6,000 people or something. So those are like our London shows are insane. All the shows in England are insane, but the London's like next level because that's just like huge city. People will travel to there, it's kind of a different thing.
So
Yeah.
you first get on stage at one of these clubs in the UK or wherever it is, and you've got 2,500 people, however many hundred, 1,000 people there, and you're like, what is your like? Is that show? Do you play differently? Are you just like pumped up the entire time? Are you a little nervous? Like, what is?
Are you
that?
talking about then when it was like the first time?
Yeah.
Oh,
Then.
yeah. So
well, I mean, then and now. I mean, I'm sure it's different now. Obviously, you've done it, plenty of
it's
times.
much different now, but in not in like a shitty way. So, then it was like, oh yeah, I want to, because it's like that's the thing you can't say. Oh, I'm going to give my all for this show. You got to do it for all of them,
Right?
Or then then you're like sort of being biased, but it gets you a little more jazzed up. So naturally, you'll put on. Then I would have gotten. It's like, oh my god, look at all these people. I got to put on. There's so many more people looking at me doing this, so I have to I can't fuck up, and I got to.
Right.
So yeah, the pressure's on, but you sort of just roll with it. Now it's different. I don't, in a good way. I'm sure this can get misconstrued. I don't care at all. In a good way, and I don't mean that in any sort of with any arrogance. I don't mean that with any sort of cockiness. I don't mean that with any sort of aloofness. Like I don't give a shit. When I say I don't care at all, I mean it doesn't change anything about what I'm doing. If there's 10,000 people there, if there's 1,000 people there, if there's 400 people, like it's just I'm going to do the exact same thing consistently. It doesn't get me any more, in a good way again, doesn't get me any more or less excited. Which is, I think, kind of where you want to get to, right? You want to get to that point where it's just like you're putting on a consistent show genuinely.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about it. It's just cool when it's like, oh, like the first time we sold out Brixton, I was like, well, that's awesome because that's like a thing, we did it. So like the idea of that did it, not the fact that, oh my God, there's so many more people here.
Yeah.
Right. Cause it's like, oh, I'm going to play the same show that I did 10 years ago.
Yeah. It was more of like the milestone of selling it out.
Sure. Yeah. I'm sure what I said is not going to make sense to some people, but it makes sense to me.
I mean, I think I get it. I think I get it. Like, I think, I get that you're able to go, this is what you do. You're going to go play this show and it's going to be fun. And you're playing for whoever's there.
I think it's a good way to put it. Yeah. Right. It's like, this is what I do. I'm going to go there and do that. Like anyone who does any job, like an electrician, if he's going to go fix something at someone's house, or if he's going to fix something at some gigantic Amazon warehouse, like it's got the same job has to get done.
Yeah.
As good.
Yeah. Except for he's not doing this with like 2,500 people watching him.
Yeah. I don't think he'd want that.
No, probably not. He's like, don't look at me.
Yeah, right. It's like the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So, Rob, a little bit ago, you mentioned that you went to high school at Pocono Mountain High School in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Wow, good memory.
So I was doing a little bit of research on you, and I found something that I thought was very interesting. Did you study nuclear engineering at Penn State when you were in college?
No.
Okay.
I went to Penn State.
Okay.
And I went for I didn't even really want to go to college. It was sort of like that thing where you get forced to do it. And and look, I didn't really need it at all. So at the time I went to college, like right at whatever 2003, or it was like when Facebook was like basically starting. So like it was only for like a certain number of schools. Like you couldn't even have it if you were in a community college or a certain state school. Like it had to be like there's like a certain select schools, and it had to be something that was like the big state schools like Penn State, or it started with like Ivy League and stuff.
Right.
So it was one of those first few schools that actually had access to it. So just being on there, none of it mattered. It still doesn't matter. But I just put it just sounds funny. I was like nuclear engineering and because I did take a couple of those classes just to fulfill an elective because I thought it'd be cool.
Yeah.
Like I had to have some sort of science thing. So I was like, I'll take this and not understand any of it. But I put it there because I thought it was funny. And it's Facebook, and I don't care. So I never changed it. And I don't ever use it. I can't even tell you the last time I made like a post on there. I like Instagram. It's simpler. It's quick.
I thought you were
People
talking
don't seem to
about,
be
like,
as.
nuclear engineering. You couldn't think of the last time you used that.
I can't think of the last time I nuclear engineered something.
Like,
No, I can tell you the last time I did anything with it was when I took that class.
there you go.
Well,
That was
that's actually where I found it. I was kind of like, well, maybe this is true, maybe not. I thought it's worth asking you. So
Fair enough question because it's listed there right under my name.
yeah, and
I mean,
you did
Justin,
graduate
in
from Penn
case-
State, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so like the way it's there, it does seem like it's legit. That's why I was like, like I told Jason. Jason's like, well, I don't know if he did, but like he's a smart guy, so maybe he did. Who knows? We should
I'm
ask
not
him.
that smart. So it also sort of goes in line with this like silly thing I always wanted to do. When I was in high school, I wanted to, because you couldn't even imagine any of the stuff that's going on now back then.
Right.
What you can do with like this thing
Yeah.
wasn't even close to a thing at all. So in high school, I was like, I want to show up to my 10-year high school reunion and convince everyone that I'm an astronaut and that I've been to outer space. And I want to see how many people I can actually convince that. But once social media came along and people, there's no way I could have convinced anyone.
Right.
It would have taken anyone a Google search in front of me for them to figure that out. So I gave up on that, but I never took the tag off of my Facebook.
Well, Justin, in case you were wondering, if you look at my Facebook, it says that I graduated with a philosophy degree, and I did, in fact.
So you're not a liar.
I'm not a liar. I'm also not a philosopher, though, so it did me no good.
But you graduated with the degree. I see you're one step closer to telling the truth about it than I am.
I mean, that's what Facebook's for, is telling the truth.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because see, I thought you mentioned earlier that you thought about maybe hanging up the guitar and the drum set and doing something else like back in 2018 or whatever. I thought maybe you're gonna go to nuclear engineering, just start your career.
And maybe I would have. Who knows?
What were you gonna do?
Yeah.
I hadn't figured that much out yet. I just knew I didn't want to do it anymore. And
So
now
that was
I
another
do.
question I wanted to ask you, because so at what point are you making a living doing this? Like how old were you? What were you doing? What band were you in when you
Bowling for Soup.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, like, sure, I made money in the Ataris and stuff, but
Yeah.
I would come home and have to do something else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To kind of stay afloat. And I was younger then. It's not like there's so much of it. Like now I have a family and everything. And patent penning, it made some money here and there, but it was never consistent and sustainable.
Yeah.
A lot, so that was always had to do something else. So actually for a while was doing, I was working like doing marketing for a concert promoter, like an independent promoter in PA that was sort of tied in with a pretty big venue, like an 1,800 cap venue. So I was doing all the concert marketing for that. So it kind of made it easy when we were touring and stuff, like with patent penning, because I could just bring it with me and just kind of do it.
Yeah.
So I was able to at least have one sort of guaranteed income.
Right.
And then when I joined Bowling for Soup, it just sort of flipped. And I actually kept that job at first because I joined BFS and I'm like, well, I was always touring anyway. And BFS doesn't tour for months at a time. We do a couple weeks at a time.
Yeah.
So I was like, no reason not to do this. So I bring it with me. Sometimes be a huge pain in the ass. I'm like, what am I doing this for? I don't need this. And then when like 2020 hit and all venues and stuff were closing and I just didn't do that. And then when it like sort of came back, I'm like, hey, we're starting back up and we're going to start doing shows again. Like with the venue and promoter, I was like,
marketing.
Y'all have fun. Enjoy. Like, once it was like severed, you sort of like realized like, oh my God, why was I still doing it? Because it was, pros and cons to everything, right? But some of it was just like, why am I stressing myself out this much?
Yeah.
I don't have to. So then I was like, no, I'm good.
So I have another question related to that one somewhat. So you just mentioned, obviously, Bowling for Soup doesn't tour a lot. When they do, like you said, they're gone for two or three weeks at a time, and you come home.
Yeah.
And now you're doing the country stuff too, so you are busy. But like, what's your day look like when you're what are your days look like when you're back, like just playing
when I am home? Basically. Well, he just started daycare too. So like last year, because he's just turned a year old. So last year we had an incredibly busy year, like Bowling for Soup did, because we were making up for lost time. There's just a lot to do, and we were gone the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd come back for a week or two at a time, and just basically stay home with Pete, because my wife would be at work. She's a Navy recruiter, and I would just hang out with Pete and like learn what a baby does. Like that would be like all day, every day. And then she'd come home and I had like relief. Now he's like a little bit older. He's a year old. So he just started doing daycare. So now I'm like sort of getting back to, I could put him in to daycare and then like get things done around the house. Like, and just like my life, like run errands and like, you know, maintain some version of a social life and do all that. And then I go pick him up and bring him home, and we have our evening together. And he goes like 3 days a week. So the other 2 days, it's just me and Pete. Yeah. And then, that's basically it. Just sort of maintaining and living and staying afloat with a 1-year-old. Because it's a lot. It's a full-time job.
Oh, yeah. It blows my mind. It blows my mind when I think back of, for one thing, when I think back what my wife and I were doing when my kids were little. But, you know, just like the fact that anybody has kids and still does things. Still works. Like, I have people that, you know, that I work with who have babies, and it's like, how do you even function sometimes? Because, like, we got moms that work where I work, and we it's a completely virtual environment. We don't have an office. But like we'll join calls sometimes, and they've got the baby. Like working with the baby right there.
Yeah. Well, that's like even like, so my wife came home early from work today because she's like feeling super sick and this whole thing. So she came home and it was just like, here's Pete, hi, and goes right into the room, and like, so I was on, which is fine. It's like, it's been happening to them lately. Like this last couple months, like since he started daycare, both of them have just been on and off sick constantly.
I guess happens.
I know I'm avoiding it somehow, but
you've probably been exposed to it all just by the fact you've been around all these crowds
in airports constantly, and that's got to have something to do with it.
Being in a band is like having a 1-year-old.
Yeah, kind of. You're just
because you're just exposed to so many germs.
Yeah, I'll take it. It's doing me good, I guess.
Yeah.
You mentioned airports. What's the travel like for you? Because Bowling for Soup is based in obviously in Texas, DFW area. Obviously, Jaret, you know, his country band, same place. So you're in Pennsylvania. You're obviously traveling to Texas every month, right? I mean, what's that like?
It's you know, flying's the worst, but I've been doing it so long and so consistently that I'm able to take advantage of all the perks of remaining loyal to an airline. So it's nice to, and people make fun of me all the time because I use like the credit cards for it, and like I've always like manage my points and status and all, but it's because when shit hits the fan, I don't have a miserable experience. I remember I got like last summer, this thing happened where I ended up getting stranded at the Vegas airport, and I'm like, all right, I can just go to that Minute Suites over there and go to sleep for 4 hours if I want. When I'm done, I can just go to the lounge and have a meal and hang out at the bar, like until it's, you know. So it's like, it's those things that instead of sitting at a gate staring at the wall for 10 hours, you know, like that people get stuck doing. And if you don't travel all the time, it's like, all right, well, that was just a terrible day. If you travel all the time, and because that happens all the time, delays and everything, you got to find your way out of those scenarios. So it's like caring about what your airline status is and caring about like what sort of priority pass system you use, and all that makes all the difference in the world when you fly as much as I do, because it's not a great experience. Like flying sucks.
Yeah.
So I make it the best way I possibly can.
Are you in April? Are you going back after like we got the 6th and the 7th, and then you going back and then coming back the very next week, or?
Oh yeah, I can't. I mean, I'm not. I couldn't possibly justify
staying the whole time,
just hanging out at Jaret's house for 4 days when there's a kid here. You know what I mean? Like
right.
And my wife, you know. So and just shit to do. So yeah, I'll fly home the 8th. I'll fly back in on the 12th. But that's nothing I'm not used to.
Right.
Yeah. So between the two bands, it keeps me busy, but it also, it's part of the job, right? It's part of the.
It's what you do.
That's exactly right. It's what I do.
And how do you like Texas? It seems like you spent a lot of time in Texas the last few years. How do you like it, or what do you think about Texas?
I like Texas. The summertime I can't handle it, but
No, you Pennsylvania, Texas. I'm supposed to ask you about the
shirt.
Yeah,
I Pennsylvania, Texas. I also
ask
Texas,
you where you
Pennsylvania.
got that. I'm supposed to ask you where you got that shirt.
I had it made.
You had it made. There you
go. So that's Pennsylvania. People don't even know what that is. Like in Texas, they're like, "What's that like shape next to the?" I was like, "That's the state of Pennsylvania." And then I have another one that's It's the state of Texas shape, PA. So it's just a joke because like Bowling for Soup is such like the whole Texas thing is so like important and stamped. It's like mentioned in so many songs. It's like like most of like the banners we ever have is like the Texas state flag. Like Jaret had that guitar for the longest time. So it's like to just have a dude from Pennsylvania there is like, oh, whatever. So I just wanted to make like a little note about it by getting those shirts made. That's it.
That's great.
I do like Texas though. I'm a big fan of the Lone Star State. I just don't think I could live there. It's too fucking hot in the summer. It's too much. I'm just not used to that at all.
Yeah, you don't ever get used to it, really. It's just where you are, so you just have to kind of deal with it the best you can. But yeah,
I'm used to the cold. Like it can get like -20 here with wind and snowstorms and stuff, and I'm used to that. Like I'm never like, why am I doing this? I'm just like, that's part of life. That's what you do.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That just something about that heat. I can't do it.
So growing up and living in Pennsylvania your whole life,
well,
I
moved to Pennsylvania when I was 8.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Where were you born or where?
Queens.
Oh, New York. Okay. Yeah. But you're very much East Coast your whole life, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. I was just giving you shit because I was like, "You're from PA." I was like, "I know I'm from PA," but I did live in New York New York City the first 8 years.
Right.
That's why I'm such a big Spider-Man fan.
Very cool. Yeah.
Kid from Queens.
Queens. That's right. You have a lot of Spider-Man stuff. I noticed on your Instagram and.
Yeah, my kid's named Peter Parker.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Jason said he was named Pete. I didn't even put two and two together.
His middle name's Parker.
Awesome. That's freaking so what when did you fall in love with Spider-Man? Just
is the first I can say this with total certainty. It's the first fictional character I ever loved.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just pretty much my whole life. I think I'm wearing that shirt right now.
Look at that.
Well, who's your favorite cinematic Spider-Man?
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
I think he's the best combination, right, of Spider-Man and Peter Parker. He kind of plays them both.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Tobey Maguire is such a great actor when he's being like an ass, and I mean that like with love. Like he's in these so many roles where he's like this really intense kind of jerk, and it's like he's so good at that, and he's a really intense actor. So when he's playing this lovable kid from Queens, it's a nerd and whatever, I just never believed it once. His Spider-Man was like really unlikable. I didn't. That's just my.
So you really liked Spider-Man 3 then?
It's like the worst movie of all time. It might be as bad as. It's almost as bad as Star Wars Episode 1. Yeah, it's up there.
I agree with you. I mean, I like Spider-Man 3 more than Episode 1, but
I think you guys might actually be a match made in heaven. He's going to invite you to come on his other podcast now. I know he's going to.
Great, count me in.
Yeah, so I have a podcast called The Watchers in the Basement. We talk about superheroes, and we did the Last of Us show on HBO. So yeah, we'd love to have you sometime. So
maybe we should save some of this conversation for that. Then.
Yeah,
we can go all about cinematic Spider-Man and the 3 Star Wars movies.
Yeah, well, I'll hit you up. Just real quick, are you watching Mandalorian? Are you following that? Or
yeah, it's really the first season of that show is the greatest thing Star Wars did since 1983.
I agree.
And the second season, I really wanted to like it, so I did. And the third season has got me bored to goddamn shit.
Yeah. It's really just like,
It's tough. It is
hey,
a
we've
tough
got
watch.
baby Yoda though, right? Like,
Oh yeah, and it doesn't seem like they're even caring yet. Maybe they will, but it doesn't even seem like they give a shit explaining why he
Right.
just like, hey Luke, see ya. I'll go back to this guy. They didn't even address it yet. I
Yeah.
mean, they were like a few episodes in, and it's boring as shit. Like I don't care about anything that's happening. It's starting to seem like it's like a high budget Star Trek show, which are historically the most boring shows in
Oh my
history.
god.
You like Star Trek?
I do like Star Trek.
Jason is a Star Trek guy.
Right.
Yeah.
I just think it's so boring. It's a show
honestly,
about
okay.
hallways.
I mostly just like Next Generation because when I was a kid when that was on and I loved watching.
Me
that
too. And my brother watched it. He loves that. She can like recite lines, and he's huge into
Next
that.
Generation I was big into. I never really I watched some of the other stuff, but not some of the other seasons. Like I watched I don't know, like the first few seasons of Voyager, and I definitely watched Deep Space Nine.
It's just all the same to me. Like and you're gonna hate this. The only thing of Star Trek I ever liked, well, first of all, is the campiness of the 60s stuff. Like that was just fun because it's 60s looking and everything, like I can tolerate watching that for 20 minutes, but the JJ Abrams first movie that he did I thought was cool because it was something happened and something blew up and
and it was a big it was a big special effects type thing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that movie is stupid. The fact that every character isn't just like they're not just another crew on another ship. They're like the best at everything,
right?
And it's like kind of everything's exaggerated and kind of like cartoony, but at least it kept my attention. I don't know. Like you couldn't put on an episode of The Next Generation and expect me to make it past the opening credits without like falling asleep. That's just me.
No, I'm much more of a Star Wars guy. Also, although
all three of them.
The sequel movies.
I was gonna say when you said the first three.
The first three.
The three Star
Wars
movies.
To me, it ended at Return of the Jedi, and then they made like Episode 7 was cool because it was like a remix of the first three.
Yeah, and it was well done, and like it was like more severe than a 45-degree angle. I thought Rogue One was cool as its own thing, but that one's like a millionaire's fan project. Right. That's what Rogue One is, but it's good. And it was like, wow, like I can get into it. Like there's some stuff that's stupid, but overall I like it. But we'll get into this in your other podcast.
Yeah,
for sure.
No, I can't wait. That'll be awesome. So one of the final things I want to ask you is, so again, you're growing up in Pennsylvania, you're in all these, different punk bands, pop punk bands. Did you ever think one day you'd be in a country band? And did you grow up listening to country music at all?
No, I mean, just whatever music's a weird thing because a long time ago, there was no like radio format. It was just music on the radio. So whether it was rock or country, it didn't matter. Like Johnny Cash and the Beatles at the same time, you know what I mean? Was just like, it's some form of rock and roll and it wasn't really whatever. So from that, not that I lived in the 60s, but like growing up in the 90s, still sort of similar thing happening where I never really got into that 90s stuff in country than Garth Brooks and what have you. I never really cared about any of that. Billy Ray Cyrus, who's great. I'm not saying I didn't like it. I was just a kid and didn't really listen to that stuff, but I knew like the classic stuff as a kid. I knew Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash and all that. So like that part of it was always cool. And I was always a huge fan of the Eagles, and their first record is for sure a country record. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what I took from it and held on to when Jaret was like, hey, I'm doing a country band and I want you to be in it. I'm like, some of the stuff that I love is like deeply rooted in it. Like for instance, that first Eagles album. So I'm like, yeah, that could be fun because that's what I'm like pulling from.
Yeah.
Inspiration wise. So I never thought I'd be in a country band, but it's something that is easier and much more conducive the older I get. Like I would have never even entertained the idea when I was 16.
Right.
Oh, well, me either.
Yeah.
I mean,
sure.
Me either.
You're a metal guy, you know?
Yeah, there's no way I would have done it at 16. I pretty much stopped playing the fiddle, I think, when I was about 13. So
oh wow.
And it was mostly because I was like, I want to listen to Metallica, and
which is great.
It never occurred to me that I could do both.
Yeah, you can do. That's the thing. Like, man, when I was a teenager, I was such a shithead. Like,
Yep.
it didn't occur to me that I could not listen to just punk rock music.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do think though, like you, Rob, like I didn't grow up listening to country music. I know who Garth Brooks was. I know who he was and different people like that. But I do think that there's a difference in country music and like the Jaret style country music, which to me is like, to me, it's very similar to Bowling for Soup. That's why I love it. I think
Sure.
y'all
He calls
just
it Texas country. You know, I
Right.
don't know what the difference is, but
Yeah.
I know it's not like and I'm not talking trash. I have a lot of friends in this field, but it's not that Nashville thing that's happening right now.
Oh no,
Right.
yeah, definitely not.
You know,
But
so I don't necessarily enjoy that or like it, but I know that it's a big thing right now, which is, you know,
yeah,
but it's its own thing. Like you couldn't just be like, well, that's what country music is, right?
yeah.
I'm not the authority to ever speak about like that's not real country. That's not me. I'm not, like I said.
No, I think those whatever you want to call it, purists or whatever. I think that's
Sure.
I don't like the idea at all. Like, but some of that stuff is objectively bad. Like it's just really bad.
Some of it, yeah, a lot of things is objectively bad.
Yeah.
And
But-
and I also can recognize that just because I'm not a fan of something doesn't mean that it's bad either. So like it's
Yeah,
finding that
That's
fine
fair
line.
too. That is
Yeah.
definitely fair. Yeah. I honestly I try to be I am more so in the last 6 months than ever in my life. I am trying to be how do you even describe it? Like I am trying to be
Open to stuff.
I'm trying to be proactively like kind and just like
Just in
like,
general.
in general. And
Oh,
it's
that's
not, like,
nice.
I don't want to be judgmental about stuff. And sometimes I am. You know, it's not always the first instinct, but like,
You know, I'm kind honestly same exact thing. Like I've done this thing for a while that I try and stick by. And sometimes I falter, but for the most part, and this kind of goes in line with that. This is sort of like it's a big part of that, right? I never try and talk about someone as if they're not in the room. So if I'm talking to you about somebody and I'm venting about them and complaining about them, I try and phrase it if that person was sitting in the room with us.
yeah,
And I think it's a very important thing that not enough people do, because a lot of
Yeah.
people are so quick to be like that fucking asshole and blah blah blah, you know. And it's
Yeah.
like they're getting that out there, but it's like I don't think they'd appreciate you really saying that to somebody else about them.
I
So
like that
that's where
approach.
I think that's part of the whole thing where like just to be less judgmental about things and let more things sort of roll off, and that whole idea. I'm with you, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
But I gave you
Let
another
people-
little tool there.
Let people like their Nashville country, whatever. If
Sure.
it makes you happy.
Yeah, I know, and I'm comfortable with the fact that I just don't like it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with it. I shouldn't be judged for that, just like they shouldn't be judged for enjoying it.
Well, I've been to over 100 Bowling for Soup shows. No lie. Been a
I
fan
don't even
for
know if
20
I
years.
have.
Yeah, and I've been to 4 or 5 of y'all's shows, and it's the same level of fun. So
I'll take it.
regardless of if you have a fiddle or if you've got an electric guitar or whatever, it sounds good. I enjoy it. So
I'm on that same track.
yeah,
If I like it, I like it. I don't care what it's stamped as.
There you go.
It shouldn't matter. But that's country. Great. I like that. It's like the same thing with food, right? If you eat something and it's delicious, someone's like, that's like a goat ball or something like
Right.
that. You'd be like, well, then that's what I like now because this thing's great. You know what I mean? When people try and gross you out, you know what I'm talking about?
Right.
That's, blah, blah, blah. Like, great. Well, whatever that is, I like it. I don't give a shit.
That's funny.
I mean, there's no better way than to end on liking goat balls. That's just
Yeah. All right. I'll go out on a high.
That's it.
Hey, seriously, hit me up about the that
no.
other podcast.
Trust
I would
me, I
love to
will.
do it sometime.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's going to be another Spider-Man movie. I mean, I don't know. It's probably going to be a couple years from now, but
I think it's next year.
okay.
That's what I heard. I could be completely wrong. And he's also
Well-
supposed to be fronting the Avengers, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then do you like other Spider-Man adjacent characters? Because there's other Spider-Man stuff coming out. Like,
What do you mean by that? Like,
well, so there's a Kraven the Hunter movie coming out this year, apparently. Craven is a villain of
As
Spider-Man.
long as Sony can, I know who Craven the Hunter is. As
I
long as
know. I'm for the audience because I don't think Jason
know.
knows who
I
Craven
have
the
no
Hunter
idea.
is. Yeah.
well, you should just do your own research. He's,
I will.
Marvel Studios has proven to understand their own character much more than Sony ever will.
Yeah.
So if it stays within Marvel, I'm much more interested with what they do with the characters because Sony does not understand Spider-Man and the characters around him.
Well, the Craven is a Sony movie.
Of course
And
it is.
there's
Well,
a-
because
there's
they're not letting go of that. They just know how much money
No.
they can make. They released the whole game system around it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Spider-Man and then PlayStation are the two things Sony has that make them money, and that's
Well, I mean,
legitimately true. Yeah,
sure they're doing all right otherwise, but
no, right, but I mean, those are like their two like trademark things, or having Spider-Man's
Very much
movie
so.
rights and selling
like they're not
PlayStation
letting
5.
go of that, and it's like where are the ones that suffer because they want bigger yachts, and I understand that, and it's fine. This is a capitalist economy. I get that.
Yeah.
But man, I wish someone there would be like, there's someone would work on a solution where it's like we don't have to make shitty movies.
Right.
You know what? Capitalism is the reason that we have bad Spider-Man movies.
See, you can print that.
Yeah. Capitalism, it's your fault for Morbius.
I didn't even go see that. I've never seen it.
It's on
haven't seen
Netflix, I
it.
think. Y'all should
So
watch
maybe
it.
that's see what I call this is I did this with Venom also, which is terrible.
Venom.
It's what I call a plane movie. When I'm on an airplane, it's wasted time. So I'll download terrible Morbius on Netflix and watch it on the next stupid flight because that's time already spent in my mind. So like, all right, I can see how much I'm not going to like this movie. Talking about how we were trying to be less judgmental and stuff, but this is an absolute certainty that I'm not going to like it.
Movies are different. Like it's,
Yeah.
No, I mean, art is art, but yeah, some of those Sony movies are not the best. They're also doing Madam Web, which
Like, how boring is that going to be?
but apparently
Who cares?
there's going to be another Spider-Man in it who's not Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire or Tom Holland.
Yeah, I'm
So-
sure. It's like we already saw that, and they like muddy it. That last movie was great. No Way Home really was an incredible.
No Way
movie.
Home,
Actually,
yeah.
I think it's such a good movie. The emphasis on Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield worked with the story, and I get it.
Right.
But it took a little bit away from our Peter Parker,
Right. Right. But
It's
then
fine.
it also set him on a new journey where now no one knows he's Peter Parker. And so like it's
I understand. Like,
I mean, it kind of did it perfectly. Everything like made the Andrew Garfield movies good, by a way.
Anything.
Right. And then it continued Tom Holland's version. And it
Oh,
kind of
sure.
gave us like a wrap on Tobey Maguire. Now they may all come back again. Who knows? But
Well, everyone loves money, so of course they're going to come back.
yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you
But
know.
yeah. So
See, we're going off on a tangent again.
right. No, I can't wait to talk to you about Spider-Man and all kinds of superhero stuff. So but we'll have to do that another time. But Rob, we really appreciate your time. Jason, did you have any other questions for him before we get out of here?
None that I can think of now, but I'll ask you next week.
I'll see you at 5:00 next Thursday.
Yep.
Right?
No,
Isn't
actually,
that was that what Dave said?
You'll probably see me before that because I'll have.
Are
to
you
come,
coming up?
I'll have to come up. Wait, is our show's on Wednesday, right?
Oh no, I thought it was
Wednesday,
Thursday.
No, Thursday, Friday. That's
So
right.
let me
Thursday,
throw this up there.
There you go.
Here's,
It's up on
here's
the-
y'all's shows.
Thursday,
Yeah.
Friday. So
I'll
I'll
be
have to
flying
come-
in that morning, so I'll see you that day
Okay,
at some
all
point.
right,
so
then.
you might already be there. I got you.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
So Jaret Ray Reddick is all over Dallas Fort Worth next weekend. You got Denton or next
And the week after.
Yeah, Denton, Fort Worth, the Colony. You got Fort Worth again, Dallas. Then you're going to go to Abilene. Is that a show you're going to, Rob? The
Abilene
show?
and Amarillo. Those are just Jaret.
Just Jaret.
He's
Okay.
doing solo because he's doing radio stuff.
And
Okay.
and oh, is that what he's doing? It's radio stuff, and then doing like a show around it.
Like it's just in the same town, so he did he set
yeah.
up a thing like song swaps, I think, with other artists.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So if you're in those areas, check out Jaret check out the full band for if you're in DFW, and then Bowling for Soup. You got some shows coming up in May. Let me get that graphic.
And those
here.
are Texas shows too. There you go.
Yep. There we go.
Amarillo, the Colony, New
That
Braunfels.
Colony show's almost sold out.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the new Braunfels show, that's on my birthday.
Is
Oh.
it?
Oh yeah.
I didn't even know that was your birthday. My birthday's on the 1st of May.
Oh, look at that. I didn't know that was your birthday. Actually, no, I think we talked about this before and we just forgot. It's fine.
And my birthday's on the 9th of May. So we're all May.
Seriously, that's great. Look at that.
It's May all day, right?
It's May Day.
Aunt May. We're talking about Spider-Man. Yeah.
Aunt May. Yeah.
Everything works
Nice.
out.
Oh, you're pissing off Jason now.
And
I like the movies.
yeah, he likes
I just
the
don't
movies.
know all the characters like Justin does.
He hasn't studied it like we have.
All right.
Whole life to do.
Speaking of that May 6th show, the band Laredo is going to be playing with y'all, Rob. And the band Laredo was one of the first guests on our show. I think they were like an episode 4 or 5.
Yeah.
They're phenomenal. So
Very cool.
that
I've heard
show
really
is gonna
great things from Jason about them.
that is going to be a fun show in New Braunfels. So if you're in the New Braunfels area,
On my
definitely-
birthday.
yeah, on Rob's birthday,
I'm gonna be there. So
Let's party. Oh yeah, that's not too far from you, right?
yeah, no, it's like 45 minutes.
All right, let's do it, man.
Yep.
sounds awesome. So Rob, is there anything you want to plug? We've got your Instagram and Twitter there. I don't know if
I
you're big
see
on
that.
Twitter, but
Yeah, but I mean, those are really the only 2 apps I'm ever on.
You liked one of my tweets the other day.
Yeah, and I like the one today.
Oh yeah, that's the one you liked. Never mind.
That's today. No, I mean we went over what we got coming up, and really those. I mean, I'm really stoked for those Texas shows, with both bands. So I'll see y'all there.
very cool. So hey, Jason, we're on social media also. You want to let everybody know about that?
We're on social media also. We're not that active on Instagram, but I try to put some stuff together. I made the thing for this show. But I think we're at LFDT pod on all those things, right?
Yep.
So
Very
when
confident.
Yeah. And,
well, we also have a Facebook page, but that one is like
just look up "Let's Freaking Do This." You'll find it.
we
And-
we studied nuclear engineering on Facebook.
Right.
But anyway,
Once again, LFDT stands for "Let's Freaking Do This," which Rob, that's actually a line from a Bowling for Soup song. That's how we got the name of the show. So
I like it. I'm in.
that's the kind of fans we are of the band. So once again, thanks to Rob for joining us. And we want to thank all of you for watching. If you're watching this now, do us a favor, like this video, subscribe to our channel. It really helps us. We really appreciate it. And hey, we're also available on podcast platforms like Spotify and Stitcher. So if you really want to be our friend, and I think you do, follow us on those platforms, rate and review us. I know all that stuff is like just a couple clicks, and it's really not a whole lot. I know it might sound like it is, but like that stuff really matters when you're in the podcast game. So help us out. We appreciate it. Also, like, we want people to hear Rob and, check out Bowling for Soup and everything. So
and the conversation about Spider-Man,
the Spider-Man stuff, which we're going to continue.
and trash
So
and
for
Star- definitely
Star
gonna
Trek.
yeah. So yeah, Star
we'll
Trek
go easy
sucks.
on it.
Yeah,
We'll go
no,
easy on Star Trek for you, Jason.
There we go. Maybe we'll have Jason join too. Jason's never been on that podcast either, so maybe Jason
I
can
want to join. So you can have 2 members of Jaret Ray Reddick on your
There you go.
podcast.
There we go. Yeah, that'll be fun. So, but for this podcast, we're signing off. So thanks again to Rob for joining us. Really appreciate it. So for Rob, for Jason, I'm Justin. We will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a good night.